There are moments in life that change everything. When you look back, you realize it all started so ordinary. But that ordinariness never stays the same. My story began just like that. My stepson Liam and I were spending an ordinary evening in the living room. After Marquez's death, silence had taken over this house. For 2 years, I had been trying to piece together the missing parts of my life. But I hadn't noticed Liam had grown up, or maybe I didn't want to notice. We were watching an action-packed movie with bits of romance here and there. Liam was sitting next to me, sprawled on the couch, arms casually stretched out, looking like he owned the place. It was the first time I saw him like that. His shoulders were broader, his jaw more defined. He wasn't a boy anymore. He was a man through and through. But I quickly pushed that thought out of my head. He's my stepson, I reminded myself. Yet that night, I had no idea those reminders would fall short. As the movie went on, the scenes got more intense. Liam leaned slightly to the side, resting his arm on the back of the couch, etching a bit closer to me. It felt like he was about to say something, but he didn't. For a moment, we locked eyes. In his gaze, I saw that depth, and right then, a sense of unease settled inside me. Part of me tried to brush it off, to normalize the moment. It's nothing, just a movie, just a misunderstanding, I told myself. But my feelings weren't lying to me. During one of the romantic scenes, I felt his breath brush against my cheek. Without even realizing it, he had moved closer. His hand on the couch was so close to my shoulder that I couldn't tell if he was about to touch me or not. Inside, I was a mess. Being this close to him made me uncomfortable, yet strangely, it also sent a thrill through me. That feeling terrified me. But everything was happening so fast, I couldn't even keep up with my own thoughts. "Cassidy," he said, his voice low and a little hesitant. "I want to tell you something." I turned to him, my heart racing. "Yes, Liam?" I asked, but my voice was shaking. I want to thank you for everything," he said. "After Marquez died, you've always been there for me. You didn't have to, but you did. And because of you, I never felt alone in this house. That's because of you." His words hit me hard, but the intensity of the moment left me feeling even more vulnerable. "Of course, Liam," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm glad you're here." But he didn't take his eyes off me. "Me too," he said slowly, his voice sounding deeper. "Seeing you here makes me feel at ease." The air between us grew heavy all of a sudden. He must have felt it too because he pulled his hand back a little, but his eyes never left mine. In that moment, I didn't know what to do. My heart was pounding like crazy, and my thoughts were all over the place. I tried to maintain the distance between us, but a spark had already ignited in my mind. He wasn't a boy anymore. That truth hit me that night, and it was a truth that would be everything. That night, Liam's approach toward me was different, warmer, more emotional. For years, I had been like a mother figure to him, but the Liam sitting next to me that night was no longer that little boy. At 19, he was tall, broad-shouldered, and undeniably handsome. But he was still my stepson, wasn't he? That thought was what I clung to as I tried to suppress the confusing feelings stirring inside me. But I couldn't have known that it wouldn't stop there. When Liam looked at me that night, the depth in his eyes left me completely defenseless. As I wondered why he was being so emotional and warm that day, I didn't realize just how close we were to something happening that night. And this story, which started that evening, would change the course of my life entirely. If you enjoy hearing confessions like this, join my channel, subscribe, and turn on notifications to support us. Trust me, this story will be one of the most thrilling ones you'll ever hear. A few days had passed since that night. Liam was acting different than usual. At breakfast, he talked more, and his eyes barely left me. He had started helping around the house in a way he had never done before. "Cassidy, let me help you," he said one morning when he saw me sweeping the floor. He took the broom right out of my hands and started doing it himself. I looked at him in shock. He had never done anything like this before. "I know you handle everything in this house by yourself," he said, his eyes fixed on mine. "You're just one woman. Someone needs to help you here." Those words both surprised and oddly moved me. "Thank you, Liam," I said, trying to steady the slight tremble in my voice. But inside, a warm wave spread through me. The way he had so plainly acknowledged my loneliness struck a deep chord. Later that day, while I was cooking in the kitchen, I felt Liam's eyes on me. He was standing behind me, leaning against the counter, just watching. But these weren't the kind of looks I was used to. His eyes wandered over my body, my hips, my back, my hair. At first, I thought I was imagining it. "No, Cassidy, you're overreacting," I told myself. But I could feel the intensity in his gaze. I did my best to act normal, but deep down, I couldn't deny the slight thrill I was feeling. To be honest, I liked it. It had been so long since I'd felt someone's attention on me like that. When Liam left the kitchen, I couldn't help but go to the mirror. I looked at myself in the reflection. Even in my 40s, I was still attractive. I had a slim waist, full hips, and a toned body, thanks to regular exercise. My light brown, wavy hair fell gracefully over my shoulders, framing my face in a soft way. My breasts, well, they seemed to have forgotten my age. I hadn't looked at myself like this in the mirror in such a long time. In that moment, something stirred inside me. Something was changing. I could feel it. Liam's behavior became more obvious as the days went by. His eyes never left me anymore. Sometimes it was a casual touch. Sometimes just a simple word. But I started noticing that he was pushing the boundaries between us. Maybe the worst part was, I found myself enjoying it. After what happened in the kitchen that day, as I lay in bed that night, one thought wouldn't leave my mind. Liam wasn't a boy anymore. He had grown into a mature, handsome man. But I never could have guessed how much that realization would excite me. And I knew very soon there would be a moment where all of this would spiral into something impossible to untangle. One evening, I came home after being out, and the sight that greeted me left me breathless. Candles everywhere, flowers, a beautifully set table, and a romantic atmosphere. More than anything, I was captivated by the birthday surprise Liam had prepared. At first, I couldn't believe it was for my birthday. This level of effort seemed more like something you do for a lover. When Liam came into the living room to greet me, I immediately understood why I thought that. He was wearing a white shirt and black trousers. I'd never seen him like this before. So put together, so charismatic. It was hard to take my eyes off him. "I wanted to make this day special for you," he said with a faint smile. Then he handed me a box. When I opened it and saw the dress inside, I looked at him in shock. It was a stunning, bold red dress with a soft texture, a deep open back, and a high slit. The moment I saw it, I felt both excitement and hesitation bubbling up inside me. "You bought this for me?" I asked, surprised. "Of course. It's your birthday, and I wanted you to wear something special." "I'm sure it'll look amazing on you," he said, his voice calm but his gaze intense. I took the dress and went to my room. Standing in front of the mirror, I felt the soft red fabric brush against my skin, and I experienced something I hadn't felt in a long time. As I slipped the dress on, I realized I hadn't worn anything that showcased my figure this beautifully in years. My long legs peeked elegantly through the slit. The curve of my waist and the smooth line of my back perfectly complemented the dress's design. I looked at my reflection, and after a moment of silent observation, I smiled and whispered to myself, "This is crazy. I'm dressing up for Liam. But wow, I really do look stunning in this dress." I studied my reflection more closely, facing truths I had ignored for years. Yes, I was in my late 40s, but this dress made me feel like I was in my 20s again. My skin was still smooth. My light brown hair fell softly around my shoulders, framing my face with elegance. And inside, I felt a thrill I hadn't felt in a long time. Taking a deep breath, I left the room. When I walked down to the living room, Liam's eyes locked onto me, and he didn't look away. The way he stared at me made everything even more surreal. There was no missing the admiration in his gaze. Smiling, I said, "I owe this to you. The dress is incredible." But I quickly looked down, feeling flustered, feeling self-conscious under Liam's intense gaze. "I was right," Liam said, his eyes still glued to me. "You look absolutely stunning in that dress." Hearing such a direct compliment, I felt my heart race, but I tried to brush it off, replying, "You're exaggerating." Liam guided me to the table he had prepared. There were 2 wine glasses, and a bottle of red wine sat elegantly in the center. For a moment, I felt like I was in an entirely different scenario. This didn't feel like a birthday celebration. It felt like a romantic dinner. But I didn't say anything, because the atmosphere had completely drawn me in. Liam opened the wine and poured it into our glasses. Soft music played in the background, and the wine left a warm sweetness on our tongues. At first, our conversation was about the past, about Marquez, and the changes in our lives. But as the evening went on, I noticed Liam slowly steering the conversation to something much more personal. "Cassidy," he said suddenly, his voice soft but carrying a serious tone, "how can a woman like you be alone? I just don't get it." I locked eyes with him, completely at a loss for words. "Liam, lonely isn't always a choice. Life has a way of leaving you alone," I said. But his gaze held something deeper. "You don't have to stay alone," he added, lifting his glass to his lips. "A woman like you has needs, Cassidy, and I'm here." The words caught in my throat. What he said touched me far deeper than I was prepared for. I raised my glass and took another sip, but my eyes stayed on Liam. This birthday had stopped being just a celebration. It was turning into something completely different. When Liam set his wine glass down, he never took his eyes off me. "Cassidy, you look absolutely incredible. I wanted this night to be special for you, because you deserve it," he said, his voice low but firm. I gave a shy smile, twirling my glass in my hand. "That's really sweet of you to say, Liam. But sometimes I wonder why you're putting in so much effort," I said. Liam raised an eyebrow slightly and replied, "Because you deserve it. You're not just a stepmom, Cassidy. You're so much more than that." His tone carried a depth that both surprised and deeply moved me. For a moment, neither of us looked away. The silence between us only intensified the tension. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything to break the moment. Liam slowly stood up from his seat, walked around the table, and came to my side. Resting his hand on the edge of the table, he leaned toward me. "Cassidy, you don't deserve to share your life with someone who doesn't appreciate you. No one should overlook a woman like you," he said. "Liam," I began, but I had no idea what to say. The words were caught in my throat. Just as I was about to speak, Liam leaned in closer to my face. "I can't hide how I feel about this," he said in a whisper. And then his lips met mine. The kiss completely threw me off balance. I felt a passion, a warmth, a connection I hadn't felt in years. His hand slid slowly to my waist, pulling me closer to him. What had started as a moment of shock quickly turned into something I couldn't help but respond to. Our lips stayed locked for what felt like an eternity, as though the world had come to a halt. But suddenly, reality hit me. I slowly pulled away from Liam, completely out of breath. This isn't right," I said, my voice trembling. "Liam, I need to go to my room," was all I could manage to say. Liam looked at me and took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Cassidy, but I couldn't stop myself from feeling this," he said, his voice calm, yet still carrying a fire within it. Without saying anything else, I stood up and hurried to my room. As soon as I entered, I shut the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. My heart was racing, and I tried to piece together what had just happened. I sat down on the edge of my bed and looked at the mirror. Even my reflection seemed unable to shake off the weight of that moment. How did this happen? I whispered to myself. The whirlwind in my mind, mixed with the effects of the wine, slowly pulled me into my bed. As soon as my head hit the pillow, the emotions and weight of the evening overwhelmed me, and I drifted off to sleep. But the night wasn't over yet. Sometime later, I heard a faint noise. My eyes fluttered open, and I saw a shadow at the door. The door creaked open slowly, as if even the hinges knew this moment carried weight. A sliver of golden light from the hallway spilled into the dimly lit room, casting long shadows across the floor. My breath caught as Liam's silhouette appeared in the doorway, tall and motionless for a second, like he was wrestling with something deep inside him. "Cassidy," he whispered, barely louder than a breath. His voice was low, almost reverent, but beneath the softness was something unshakable, an unmistakable thread of resolve that made the air in the room shift. The sound of my name on his lips sent a shiver up my spine. My heartbeat quickened, thudding in my chest like a warning or a promise. He stepped inside, slowly, carefully, as though afraid that too much noise might break whatever fragile tension hung between us. Then, with a quiet click, he shut the door behind him, closing out the rest of the world. "I know I shouldn't be here," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "but I can't help it. I couldn't stay away." He took a step closer, and then another. His eyes, those eyes, locked onto mine, and in that one gaze, I saw everything he hadn't been able to say until now. The regret, the longing, the fire that had never died. There was no turning back. Not for either of us. In that instant, something inside me cracked open. All the walls I'd built, all the feelings I'd pushed down for so long, came rushing up like a flood. I could barely breathe. My fingers trembled, and I gripped the edge of the table just to steady myself. The weight of the moment pressed down on me, and still, I couldn't look away. "I know I need to give you an answer, Liam," I said, my voice barely audible but laced with every ounce of truth I had left. My throat tightened with emotion, but I kept going. "I've tried to bury what I feel, to be strong, to do the right thing, but I feel the same about you." I took a breath, my heart hammering in my chest like it might leap free at any moment. "And I want you." There was something in Liam's eyes, an intensity, a purpose, that completely arrested me. It wasn't just a look. It was a silent plea, a confession, a promise, all wrapped into one unwavering stare. For a moment, the world around us faded into a blur. The flickering shadows on the wall, the soft hum of the night air outside, the faint creak of the wooden floor beneath my feet, all of it disappeared. All I could see was him. The emotions I had buried deep within me for years, feelings I had convinced myself no longer mattered, suddenly erupted to the surface. I could no longer hide behind the walls I had so carefully built. The dam had cracked, and the flood was inevitable. My heart pounded so loudly in my chest that I feared he might hear it. My pulse raced, not with fear, but with anticipation, hope, something I hadn't let myself feel in far too long. And in that charged silence between us, I realized there was no more running from what I felt. I took a slow, shaky breath, trying to steady myself. My voice wavered, but the words were certain, carved from the raw truth of my soul. "I know I need to give you an answer, Liam," I said, my eyes locking firmly onto his. "I feel the same way." I paused, my throat tight, my heart thundering. "And I want you." The instant the words escaped my lips, something in Liam shifted. Surprise flickered across his face, followed by the most breathtaking expression of joy and relief. It was as if he had been holding his breath for years and could finally exhale. A soft, almost involuntary smile crept across my face, mirroring the hope blooming in his. My hands trembled, not from fear but from the weight of the moment. I closed my eyes for a brief second, gathering myself, anchoring my courage. "Please," I whispered, "before I lose my nerve." With that, I lifted my trembling hands to my shoulders and gently touched the thin straps of my dress. My fingertips lingered there for a heartbeat, then I slowly slid them down one side, then the other. The silky fabric whispered against my skin as it slipped from my body and pooled silently at my feet. There I stood, completely exposed, not just in body but in spirit. Vulnerable, open, and unafraid. The soft light in the room caught the rise and fall of my breath as I looked back up at Liam, waiting. In his eyes, I didn't see hesitation. I saw wonder, desire, and something deeper, something real. And in that quiet, electrifying moment, I knew I had done the bravest thing I'd ever done. Liam's breath caught in his throat, a sound so subtle yet charged that it made my skin tingle. His eyes, dark, intense, and unblinking, burned with a desire so raw, it was almost tangible. That look alone sent a wave of warmth rushing through me, igniting something deep and long dormant. The excitement surging through my body wasn't just physical, it was emotional, soul-deep, and unstoppable.
He didn't speak.
He didn't need to. Without a single word, Liam stepped forward with certainty, as if his entire being had been waiting for this moment, just as mine had. Then, without hesitation, our lips met again, soft at first, then urgent, hungry. His kiss enveloped me completely, stealing my breath and stilling the world around us. Time lost its meaning. The air thickened, the room spun slightly, and nothing else existed but him and me, caught in a moment neither of us wanted to end. His hands found my waist, warm and sure, sliding around my body and drawing me firmly against him. I could feel the strength in his arms, the quiet desperation in his touch, the way his fingertips gripped me like he might never let go. As our kiss deepened, my hands rose instinctively to his shoulders, feeling the tension and heat radiating from his skin. With gentle guidance, Liam began to move, slowly walking me backward, never breaking the kiss, his touch never leaving my body. When the back of my legs brushed against the edge of the bed, he paused only for a second. Then, with a tenderness that took my breath away, he lowered me onto the mattress, his eyes never leaving mine. There was reverence in his gaze, as though he was memorizing every part of this moment, every piece of me. I lay beneath him, feeling the weight of the moment, of him, settle over me like a warm, protective blanket. My chest rose and fell rapidly with each breath, my heart pounding in a rhythm that matched the thrum of anticipation between us. And then, in one swift movement, Liam bent down, peeled off his shirt, and tossed it aside without a second thought. The soft sound of fabric hitting the floor echoed through the room like punctuation to a sentence we both understood, but had never spoken. He climbed onto the bed, placing his knees beside me, and leaned over, his strong frame hovering above mine. His presence was overwhelming, in the best way possible. The room felt charged, the silence between us louder than any words could be. I looked up at him, and in that moment, I saw everything: desire, restraint, admiration, and something deeper, something that looked like love. His fingers reached for my face, tracing the line of my cheek with exquisite care, before trailing down to my lips. I leaned into his touch, savoring every second. When he kissed me again, it was different, softer, more reverent, but just as consuming. And that was the moment everything changed. Years of distance, of fear, of unspoken words and guarded hearts, vanished like smoke. The boundaries we had drawn, lines etched in pain and silence, disintegrated in the heat of our connection. It wasn't just passion. It was release. It was surrender. And for the first time in over 2 years, I felt whole again. I had fully surrendered, mind, body, and soul. Every guard I had built up, every fear that once whispered hesitation into my heart, dissolved the moment Liam touched me. There was no more doubt, no more silence. Only the fire between us. As Liam moved with aching gentleness and quiet urgency, my hands instinctively reached for the sheets beneath me. I gripped them tightly, the fabric bunching in my fists as waves of tension and excitement surged through my body. My eyes fluttered shut, overwhelmed by the sensations taking hold, by the rhythm we had created, by the intimacy we were sharing without a single word. For that moment, I allowed myself to be completely consumed. I breathed in the scent of his skin, the warmth of his breath on my neck, the way his presence wrapped around me like a force I had no intention of resisting. I let myself be lost in it, drenched in the heat of the moment, wrapped in something deeper than desire, something closer to home. And then I opened my eyes. There he was, Liam. His face was flushed, the muscles of his shoulders tense and glistening in the dim light. His brows were drawn, not in pain but in focus, in want, in reverence. My heart ached with how beautiful he looked, how real it all felt. I couldn't help myself. Drawn by instinct, I reached up and placed both hands on his back. In one impulsive, fleeting moment of pure emotion, I dug my nails into his skin. Not to hurt him, but to anchor myself in the truth of what was happening, to etch that moment into time. He shuddered in response. His breathing quickened, and I felt it, his heartbeat, racing beneath my fingertips like a drum only I could hear. I slid my hand over his chest, feeling every beat, every breath, every promise unspoken but understood. And then, as if something inside him broke free, Liam let go. He surrendered, just as I had, with a gasp, a sigh, and a tremble that spoke of longing finally fulfilled. We had given ourselves to each other, completely, honestly, fearlessly. Afterward, he lay beside me, breathless, the weight of everything we had just shared lingering in the silence between us. His chest rose and fell beside mine, warm and steady, like the rhythm of a new beginning. We talked for a while, soft words, lazy laughter, whispers about dreams and memories. The kind of conversation only lovers share in the quiet aftermath of something sacred. Eventually, I drifted off, lulled by the comfort of his presence and the peace that had settled over me like a blanket. That night, I slept in a way I hadn't in years, safe, cherished, whole. But something deep inside me knew, after tonight, everything was going to change. My life, my path, my heart, they were no longer what they used to be. I had stepped into something new, something powerful. I had just experienced a night that redefined happiness for me. And the most beautiful part? I knew it was only the beginning. So don't go anywhere. There's more to this story than you know. If you've made it this far, then you've felt it too. That pull, that truth, that ache beneath the surface. My story isn't finished, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.
Stay with me. There's so much more to share.
Thank you for staying with us. If you find it interesting and useful, please subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss the next video. Thanks.